It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Wow, it was quite a sight yesterday. I happened to be going through the just my phone, and I saw on the scanner channel about the explosion at a hotel in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay, let me look at this. I go, explosion. And they go, and then a picture. I saw a picture, and I went, whoa. I immediately turned on TV, and all the TV stations were on it. The first call came in at 3:32, followed by multiple calls reporting type of explosion at the Sandman Hotel. And when you saw it, I mean, it was amazing. You know, you looked at it, you go, oh, my God, this – the one thing where I looked at it and said, okay, this looks like gas, was where you saw the sidewalk was blown out.
Yeah.
Because you've seen the pictures of it. Yeah. You look at it, you go, that's a bomb.
That's what it looked like. Yeah.
That's what it looked like. But then I went, it didn't seem like that anybody was heading in that direction, did it, authorities?
Right.
Or anything.
Right.
And I know that before that there were people in the hotel talking about that they smelled a small amount of gas, but apparently it looks like that the gas leak, or where the gas was accumulated, was in the basement and there was nobody the restaurant wasn't open. There were some employees there. And some had smelled the slight smell of gas, but I bet you it was much more powerful in that basement.
Yeah.
And you could tell, the sidewalk, from the basement was blown right out, and you could see the hole down there. And I went, okay, probably it looks like natural gas. And that's what they, say it is, result of a natural gas explosion.
Yeah. ATF had some agents down there. That's just part of protocol in a situation like that. But they agreed. It was pretty quick that they knew that this was a gas leak that caused this. And, you look at the damage that was done. I mean, it's amazing. There were 21 people injured, a handful of them seriously injured. There was a missing person at one point, but they were able to locate that missing person. But just amazing, because it happened at, 3:30 in the afternoon?
Yeah.
In the downtown area. It's just amazing. Because from the damage, just the blowout, the damage of, and then all that, the shards of the window, the glass, and the wood and everything else laying on the ground. It's just amazing that you didn't have more injured, that this wasn't worse.
Yeah, because
some of these injuries, a number of these injuries are very serious, but.
Yeah, you've seen homes where you've got a significant portion of natural gas. It'll blow the house to pieces.
Yeah. There was one who was critically injured and 4 who were seriously injured. But, yeah, this looked pretty sizable, the footprint of this explosion.
The weirdest one I've ever seen was a house where I grew up. It was a house on the street behind us, probably 5 houses down from where we were, but behind us on the next street.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a basement. They had a crawl space. And apparently the natural gas pipe was in the crawl space. So you're not talking about an entire basement, which is like, I guess you could make the analogy. It's like if you have a small crawl space with dynamite as opposed to a big basement all filled with dynamite. And the basement would have you'd have a bigger explosion. And the house And I mean, I was a young kid when it happened, but the house basically went up about 3 feet in the air, went about 3 feet to the left, and the whole thing sat right back down.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it was in that small crawl space, lifted the house right off the foundation, moved it over 3 feet, set it down, and you could see the foundation. It was the weirdest thing you could and they had to demolish the house, of course,
sure.
at the end because it was
structurally
flawed and build another house there. But that was the weirdest. That was the weirdest one I ever saw. And I was still, I wasn't sure. Like I said, when I saw, because wasn't it incredible the amount of, I guess the amount of debris that was outside on the street.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing that's why when they said there was nobody was killed, I'm like, all that stuff was flying through that building because that had to be flying.
The pressure, the blowout from the explosion. I mean, it's just amazing that no one was killed.
And it made the national news, was all over the place because I got people, calling me from New York saying, leaving me messages going, was that near you?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the same, actually.
It's like, I said, but it looks like gas. And that's where I saw, when I turned it on, it looked like either it was the natural gas people or the firefighters looking down, into that area. Because you could actually see some of the rebar from the sidewalk still there.
Right.
But the concrete was blown out. And it's like, okay, looks like it came from the basement. I just don't know where all that debris came from because it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It almost looked like a tornado went through the first couple of floors and blew out the one side.
Well, remember years ago there was a tornado that went through downtown Fort Worth.
Yeah.
This wasn't that extensive, but I mean the debris pattern was sizable here.
I saw a documentary on that, and I remember that I had, because that happened in 2000. That happened in late March of 2000. Because I came on, that was my interview that I had at our flagship station.
Mm-hmm.
And then I never forget Bob said, our old boss said, call me in a couple of days. Because we had agreed. It's like, okay, you want to work here? Yeah, okay. Us too. All right, we'll figure something out.
Right. Yeah.
I knew Bob, so it wasn't like, okay, officially. So
you had turned him down repeatedly.
Yeah, I had. Yeah.
You had a great relationship.
He said that. He goes, I'll never forget that. I mean, what an interview that was. All right. I'm not going to offer you a job because you've turned me down twice, and I'm not going to make it a third time. I'm like,
you got to beg for it then.
It's like, why am I here? It's like, do I got to beg for it?
You need to beg for it.
He goes, I want to know what you think. And I said, well, I think it went real good. And I just said, if you offered me a job, I'd take it. Because I think he said, what about paying? I go, if you want me and I want you, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to call him the next week, and that's when the tornado hit. And so I didn't call him because I figured the newsroom was going crazy. So when I finally called him, he goes, what, aren't you interested in the job? I'm like, well, no. You had a tornado that went through Fort Worth. I knew you were probably covering it. I wasn't going to call because I think we had set for that day for me to call.
Yeah.
And I just said, oh, man, that tornado went through. I'm not, the newsroom had to be crazy that day, right?
Yeah.
It had to be
insane.
No,
it was insane. Because it was also playing out on local live TV because you could see these news cams and other cams that were down there were capturing this carnage, this damage as the tornado was coming through.
Yeah, because they did the bank building, right?
Yeah.
I'll never forget that one. And I've seen documentaries of like footage of it. That's terrifying, a tornado going through a downtown area.
Yeah. Well,
my God. It was
have these large buildings, and they're not as large as New York City and not as numerous, but still, when the glass breaks, then you have the danger in the days after that until those shards and glass is removed from the actual building of more glass falling down, which is exactly what was happening. And so you couldn't have anybody on the streets down there until all that was cleared. The Sandman Hotel, downtown Fort Worth, a 245-room hotel. It's completed in 1920. The building was originally built for William Thomas Wagner, owner of the Wagner Ranch. We have some bloodline in that ranch. And is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Sandman Hotel Group is owned now by the Canadian company Northland Properties. And the CEO, the company's CEO, is also the owner of the Dallas Stars.
Yep.
So the hotel was renovated just last year.
Yeah, just recently opened.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
our prayers for those that are injured and hopefully they get through that. But it's just amazing when you look at the damage here, the debris field, and how extensive it was. That it wasn't worse. Thank God.
And I think about it all the time because, having natural gas, and we all, or a lot of us, have our furnaces in our attic. And you always think, all right.
My cooktop, my fireplace, my water heater, both of my furnaces. Yep, all natural gas.
Yeah, my fireplace, my water heater, and then the furnace. And that's what scares me is doesn't scare me. It concerns me because the furnace is in the attic. And I always think, okay.
One of mine is too, yeah.
And so you think, okay, if the natural gas, if it's out there and it's upstairs, I don't know, is it heavier? Is it heavier than air or or lighter than air?
I think it would rise. I think.
Yeah, and that's my thing is, would I smell it, or would the whole thing?
Well, and the ventilation is designed to carry that out as well through the roof.
That's true.
So if it's up to code, which it would be, your house is newer. Mine was put in, I don't know how many years ago, but it's up to code in both. The one that is in the attic and then another one is in a closet. So
you just don't want to screw with natural gas, though. That's the one thing.
Yeah, you don't. No, make sure it's up to code.
Yeah, you walk in your house, you smell it. You don't go, well, let me go around the house.
No.
Get out.
No. Get out.
The same. Do not follow the advice of those people that walk into their homes and the poltergeist tells them to get out. And they say, I think I'll stay around a while.
Exactly. No, it's
my house. I'm not leaving.
Yeah, make a phone call, have an expert check it out.
Right.
We had a gas lantern. Remember those? In our backyard.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's a pole that's permanently there.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife, has made these beautiful vegetable gardens all over the backyard that are awesome. And she was like, do we need that? We've never used it. In 20 years of living there, we've never used it. I said, no, not really. She called a guy. The guy took it out of the ground, and it's right on the other side of the actual gas meter, which is in our alley. And so he was able to cap the line. Very simple. She said it took just a short period. He was there and gone within 30 or 40 minutes. And she said it was very simple. But I was like, that's one less thing. Because it's one we're not using, and I wouldn't be out there to smell it, And so he capped the line, and I don't have a problem using gas, especially with my cooktop. If I'm cooking, I prefer natural gas. But, it's a rule of thumb. If you smell it, call somebody. Have an expert check it out.
And call it from your neighbor's house.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And don't spark anything.
Right. Get everyone out. Yeah.
Wow. 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
This is my New Year's resolution.
And for how many of us is that resolution to start and stick to an exercise program? It's not hard to make that resolution. It's like classic Tippler comedian W.C. Fields said about resolving to swear off drinking.
It's easy. I've done it 1,000 times.
There you go. But Rutgers University Extension educator Dr. Karen Inslee says many times the reason we don't stick with a program is because we start off too fast, too hard.
Because you overwork the body, it's going to be sore. And you don't want to put yourself in a place where you get oversore and then have some problems.
Inslee says the idea of no pain, no gain, that's a myth. Best thing, start slow.
Then you add a little bit more to it. So you work yourself up.
But before doing anything, have a doctor check you over. And you don't want what W.C. Fields went through every morning, trembling and shaking for hours.
It was the only exercise I got.
All right, in Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, we talked yesterday about the poll that showed that 80% of Democrats believe that states should be able to take, that states should take Trump off the ballot. 80% of Democrats. And we went, wow. It shows that 80% of Democrats don't care about the law. I mean, it's however you want to put it, that's what it shows. And I was reading Jonathan Turley yesterday, and this has to do, again, with Hunter Biden. He goes, ranking member Jamie Raskin has declared that Hunter Biden is allowed to refuse to appear in a deposition before any public testimony, the very same demand made by Democrats in the prior Congress that appears to be the excuse for Democrats to vote against contempt. But it's entirely without legal basis. It suggests that a court would agree that no witness going forward can be required to appear for a closed deposition for questioning by a professional staff. Imagine that. It would mean that witnesses could simply condition how they respond to subpoenas. Raskin is suggesting that this is a plausible legal basis to refuse to appear and that a court would effectively end compelled depositions. He is also suggesting that the Democrats would have simply shrugged off such contempt by Trump officials who refused their demands for closed depositions. At some point, the cost of covering for the Bidens in this corruption scandal must become prohibitive. For the party, this would be a good time to consider those costs. That's Jonathan Turley yesterday, that Raskin is saying legally, it'd be legal to refuse a deposition because you say, no, I want to set the conditions, and if I decide, to testify publicly, that should satisfy the subpoena.
Yeah, right.
That's almost like saying, because I thought to myself, well, then should I be able to ignore a grand jury subpoena? Why should I have to testify in private?
Right.
I wish to testify in public. I'll testify if the prosecutor wishes to have me testify in public. I'll do that, but I'm not going to testify before a grand jury in private where I can't bring my own attorney.
Right.
Well, of course, that's ridiculous. But that's what Raskin is saying. But I think it's amazing how many, because this is a much bigger problem with Democrats than it is with Republicans, and that is the law doesn't mean anything to them.
No, it doesn't. Well, no, on every level, the law and rule does not apply.
And this is the law.
Yes.
And they're like, no, we can, we'll just say this, and then the law doesn't really matter, and we're going to say it's legal because it is. Yet, as we know, it's like Nancy Pelosi the other day with her word salad, where even Stephanopoulos knew, where she goes, no, states have different rules, and he goes, well, but it's the Constitution.
Right.
Oh, I know it's Constitution, but states have their own rules. It doesn't matter whether states have their own rules. The Constitution dictates that it's Congress that can only take a president or vice president off the ballot. It's as clear as can possibly be, and they just ignore it as if it doesn't exist.
Yep, it's this way because we say it's this way.
giving you 70% each night. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, we talk about what Democrat, could jump in for Biden, because we talked about that so-called expert at one of the J.P. Morgan Chase. It was talked about the fact that from whatever algorithm he's looking at, Biden will be out, before Election Day, that he isn't going to run.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw this article and thought it was interesting. You had this, I think the Washington Post had it. As his national profile rises, Democratic Kentucky Governor Beshear launches his PAC. Governor Beshear, a Democrat who won re-election last year in the red state of Kentucky, announced the creation of a new political action committee Monday, a move that could further boost his political profile nationally as his party looks for future leaders. Beshear, who has led Kentucky since 2019 and was reelected by 5 percentage points in a state that Trump took by 26 points, said in a statement Monday that his new PAC, In This Together, will help elect good people and good candidates, not only in Kentucky, but also nationwide. It's critically important that we elect more good people, both in Kentucky and around the country, who will stand strong on our shared values and will always do the right thing, even when it's hard. He emphasized that candidates supported by his PAC must demonstrate a commitment to leading with empathy and compassion and the backbone to always do what's right, regardless of politics. Well, that's a wide path, is it not?
Yeah.
While the governor said his PAC's main mission for now is to support a variety of candidates, the committee's creation suggests Beshear could be angling for a national race in the future. He's 46 years old, considered a rising star in the Democratic Party after winning re-election in a state that Trump won by almost 26 points in 2020. He is now term limited, meaning he cannot run for governor again. Now, maybe not this year, but I was thinking about Beshear, who was, again, to be elected in a state that went for Trump, so greatly.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he did things like he signed the bill that helped, I believe, cut taxes in Kentucky and things like that.
Right.
If you have moderate Democrat governors and or Fetterman,
yeah,
I've got to say Fetterman because you saw, who was it? Sink Uyghur, who the real far left guy, went crazy at Fetterman the other day, going, what the hell's going on with him? We get him elected, and now he's sounding like a Republican. Well, Fetterman has said some critical thinking, very good critical thinking, conservative viewpoints he has made recently, which has shocked everybody.
Right.
It's like, whoa. And, from the joke that was out there on social media, okay, what does it take? What does it take to turn a liberal Democrat conservative? A stroke. That one's been all over the place.
Yeah.
But when you see the stand he has taken, some of the stands he has taken, especially on Israel and other things, you look at it and you say, because I've always asked this question, when will the Democratic Party has to change? They cannot continue supporting issues that the public despises. They cannot.
You would think.
They cannot. They cannot go on forever. They cannot go on forever attempting to just demonize personalities.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to run out of bad guys eventually. I know the left is good at creating a bad guy out of someone who's not a bad guy or gal. But you're not going to be able to sell that forever. Trump, possibly DeSantis. They'll try, and the far left is going to try and create a demon in any of them, but with the rank and file, it's harder and harder to do that these days. And that's their main motivation right now, is to have a bad guy in place, and that's their motivator. It's not the issues, and hasn't been the issues for years.
No, because you can't defend the issues based on a number of polls over the last 4 or 5 years.
It's
that are
light the
that are
torch,
consistent.
light the torch, go up the mountain, and slay the monster. Politically, that's their game. And right now, the monster happens to be named Trump.
Yeah. And as we have stated, on the political issues of the day, Trump is a moderate.
Yeah.
And every belief he has is in the mainstream of political thought over the last 20 years. Even if I disagree with it.
Right.
You know, for example, when he talks about, protectionism and things like that, or when, remember, he's the one that really brought the wealth tax, which we completely disagree with. Yeah. But it was Trump who brought that to the attention of the American public in his book that he wrote, what was it, 99 or 2000?
Yeah, right.
And then he backed off on it when, apparently after the book came out, he backed off on that, saying, okay, I'm being told that, you really can't, you really can't take, for example, if you say put a 20% tax or a 15% tax on billionaires, well, that money isn't there.
Right. Yeah.
You can't turn that into cash immediately. And so he changed his mind on that one. And we got into a discussion earlier about how, Trump at times, I believe, is wrong on economics, but he at least has shown, as he did when he was president, a curiosity to learn.
Yeah, right.
That's when and we say that when he brought in, for example, Steve Moore, when he brought in Larry Kudlow to his economic team, which I'm sure Navarro and Lighthizer didn't want. They didn't want them in there. And he brought them in with a more, and then on things like the USMCA, it was not nearly as protectionist, even though he sold it that way, that it was a complete rewrite of NAFTA. It was not.
Right. Yeah.
And we were happy that it was not. But when you, and so when you look at Trump on every issue, there was the audio out yesterday on Biden talking about, this goes back to like 2007, talking about illegal immigration. He sounded like any Republican today. And we have said that's only a recent thing, really, over the last, 8 years?
I was going to say,
Democrats have
because
completely
remember the late Harry Reid in Nevada was talking about it. I want to say, was that 2014? Talking about using barriers and walls.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's interesting that it's been a recent change, yet the Democratic voter, doesn't seem to be affected at all about the drastic change over the last decade on Democrats and their rhetoric. And the rhetoric
on that issue.
The rhetoric.
Well, or could this November 5th prove to be that threshold?
It could be.
Because if 65% say it's an invasion, then you've got a significant number of Democrats saying it's an invasion, and that's a word they have despised.
Oh, yeah, you say the word invasion, it's just, well, that's, if you say the word in invasion, that's, the xenophobic, racist code word.
Exactly.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
Is
and you couldn't,
said.
it was a word, one of their words that would signal hate. We don't it's hate speech. But the question would be, even if they believe that, is that enough to motivate them to vote any differently, or at least stay home?
Right now, the Rasmussen poll, was that the Rasmussen poll? Well, whatever the poll was that did it, as we mentioned earlier, they asked the question, is it an invasion? That question was asked in that way.
Right, yeah.
And 65% of Americans came back and said, likely voters said yes. That's pretty bad. Let me play because I found it here.
Okay.
This is 2007 Joe Biden.
All right.
Just to show you how drastically they've changed. Here we go.
It makes sense that no great nation can be in a position where they can't control their borders. It matters how you control your borders, not just for immigration, but it matters for drugs, terror, a whole range of other things. So that's the first sort of truism. The second truism is that this nation is such that people in the country should have the first opportunity to be able to have jobs that pay well and have jobs that are decent, and that after that, the second crack goes to what we may need from other parts of the world or any other input. We have to. And I had been arguing for, when I'm back in my days as chairman of the Judiciary Committee and straight through as the leader of the Foreign Relations Committee, I've been arguing for the need to put more protection at our borders.
I mean, it's just, so what the hell? It's like, come on.
Am I drunk right now?
I know.
What is happening? I don't understand. That's a totally different human. Altogether.
Yeah, but that's 2007.
Yeah.
But they were still holding to the rhetoric. Now, even back then, we didn't believe their rhetoric. But that was the rhetoric that they were
Politically,
selling.
they had to say that is the point.
Right.
They felt the pressure to say that, which tells you what the temperature of the room was back then.
Right. Even if they didn't believe it, they knew they had to say it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was listening to that yesterday going, oh, my God, you got to be kidding.
Like, bizarre.
It is.
Am I time traveling right now? What is happening? What is this? It's just weird.
I've been sober for 50 years, and now I'm not sure.
Oh, my gosh.
By the way, that is not true.
Yeah. You haven't been sober for 50 years. We all know that. Hey, sober 18 years. Everybody applauds. The first 18. There's a comedian. I can't remember who did it.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, it was a comedian that did it, and I wish I should be able to credit that comedian if I see it again on YouTube.
Well, it had to be a comedian from a while back because you could now say 21.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or if you didn't care about the law and you started drinking at 18.
Oh, okay.
There is some of that, unfortunately.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just loved the headline yesterday. Michelle Obama, I am terrified about what could possibly happen in the 2024 election. Does that mean she's running? We haven't heard that. I just had to bring that up because we haven't heard her name brought up in about, 4 months, 5 months?
Right. Yeah. Look.
It keeps her up at night.
Yeah, and the one J.P. Morgan analyst, that says he believes Biden will be out of it sometime between Super Tuesday, sometime after Super Tuesday, likely. He'll drop out and use the excuse that it's his health. Anything could happen. But my question is, how did you leapfrog over Kamala? No one wants her. The Democrats don't want her to be.
I don't think that
nominee.
I don't think they'd have any problem moving her off to the side. I just don't think they would.
Well, I know, but logistically, how does it work? You have to ask her to basically be the one that comes forward and says, I don't want to run. You've got to convince her to do that. Which, by the way, could happen. She may not want the gig. After the last 3 years, she may look at it and go, okay, yeah, I don't want to be anywhere close to this. Have you heard her once say, Man, in 28, it's going to be my shot.
No.
Nope. No, she's not proactive in the least politically. So you're right. It could be her leading the way.
I agree with you, and I think I agreed with you the other night. I don't see a debate if it's Trump and Biden. I see no debates.
I'm telling you,
and
the best advice you could give Joe is to not do it.
And it would be led by Joe Biden, because Trump has already said, I will debate Joe Biden. In fact, he's go, Joe, will you do it? And the campaign did
ball's
not
in his
respond.
court.
Right.
The ball's in Joe's court.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.